Good evening and welcome back to the shop here in Canterbury, New Hampshire. I've got a new project to share with you, the Shaker chest of drawers, and I'm in the very finishing stages. I apologize to those of you who are thinking you're going to see a finished chest. I didn't get it all the way done, but that's okay because that allows me to show some of you who are in the course some of those final details that we may or may not have been able to go into as deeply. So it's been a marathon, and with the holiday and everything, I didn't, it's not like I slacked off. It just took a long time.
No, you did not. No, you did not.
I don't know what's going on. I think I'm feeling it after 3 courses in a row, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who was a part of those courses. It was really a great experience for us, and we were going three times a week counting Shop Night Live, and so it was just a full experience. We even got new sound equipment, which you may be able to hear, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the camera lady better. Is that right?
I think it's true. I think it is true.
Okay, that was the test. Okay. How'd that test go, everybody? Did she sound okay? All right. So tonight I want to show you some of the finishing touches, and it's always a jam for some reason, getting these last things done. And it's like I've said before, that old saying that the devil is in the details. It's really, I've mentioned, the love is in the details, because it's the love of it that will get you through those last steps. If it's a mind game, a lot of this, any kind of art, any kind of project that has this kind of longevity, I mean, you're building something that could live that could last over 200 years easily. And I'm saying that because there's lots of chests just like this in museum settings and have been used over the years. I mean, many need repairs along the way, but I've tried to build this Shaker chest of drawers to be as insulated from needing repair, and then when it does, as repairable as it could possibly be, made in a traditional manner. So I want to share some of that with some of you who haven't seen it, and do some of those details that put that love in there. And rather than get bogged down with that draining feeling of, I'm so sick of this, I wish it would get over, think of these last details as the ones that are really the touch points for anyone interacting with the piece, and they're the ones where they're going to feel the real true care and love of the maker. Could be to a family member, could be to great-grandchildren someday. So I hope you'll get a few tips out of this last jam that I'm going through on this piece. Well, let's take a look at it. It's right over here in this near finished condition. Now, what it has on there for finish right now is only 2 coats of Danish oil. So I thought I would get more on it. It was so humid the last few days that I wanted to give it extra time to dry. It really should dry 24 hours, and then if you're going to top coat it like I am with water locks, which is a tung oil varnish, you want that to be fully cured, the Danish oil to be fully cured. I mean, ideally you would also buy the Waterlox Original as your base. You can build up the base of this with Waterlox Original instead of the Danish oil. But then you'll have to get 2 cans of Waterlox, and if you're cheap like me when it comes to that, I mean, 1 can of the clear or the original is just about $40, and then the satin is the same. So I just want to put 1 or 2 thin coats of satin on after I build the base. So this is Danish oil, and that's going to do it. I remember reading years ago with Thomas Moser. He still is, furniture maker up in Maine. I know he sold the company actually to his employees in recent years. But it's still all his name and dealing. And He based his furniture line initially on shaker furniture primarily, and little twists on shaker furniture. You know, these chair designs. And Chris Bexford, who some of you know, who's been featured in Fine Woodworking many times, who's a shaker aficionado, he was hugely instrumental in the initial foundation of that business. He was one of the cabinet makers at Thomas Moser Furniture. And you can look at their line of furniture at Toss Moser, THOSMOSER.com. And check out some of their furniture. And you're going to see it's priced about what you have to price this type of furniture at. So some of you have asked me in emails, hey, what'd you price that piece at? I know there's at least one person. I'm sorry I didn't get back to you yet. I'm trying to keep up with emails. But that asked me, oh, what do you sell those for? Or how much could I get for one? Well, that's a subjective question in a way. It's like, how much could you get for it? I mean, have you been doing it a long time? What do you have to say about it? How's your marketing? You know, but what's substantial about it? What gives it value? And Thomas Moser does a beautiful job of writing about the integrity and almost the romance of fine furniture work. So check out that website and look at the chest of drawers. There's one on there with 5 drawers similar to this in a walnut, and it's almost, I think it's around $9,000. So that gives you some idea. Those dovetails are not cut by hand. So you're making this and you're cutting it by hand, doing it the good old-fashioned way. So who knows what you could get for it, right? It's priceless, because you're not going to be selling these. You're going to be giving them to your family members. And you know, when you think about it, if you stretch that out, I forget what the accounting word is for this, but if you valued it out, right? Somebody give me that word.
Amortize.
It's not amortized. I'm not sure if it's amortized. Did you just say amortized? Oh, very good.
I'm not sure, though. Maybe you're making me question it now.
But if you extrapolate it or whatever the value over, let's say it lasts for 200 years. If you paid $10,000 over 200 years, what is that? How much did that come out to a year? I don't know. $5?
I'm still thinking about amortizing.
$10? I don't know. But it's a great value is what I'm saying. There's huge value. Even if you paid that much money, it's not the kind of thing that you're going to put out on the sidewalk or in the, you know, it's not some kind of crap that you get overseas and assembled with screws, you know. Anyway, I don't have to put anything down to make this sound good. But
No.
let me take out the drawers. I'm sorry I said crap. Are you looking at me?
No,
All right.
not at all.
I'm taking out the drawers
Not
now.
up to me anyway.
Let's look at the inside of this. I don't have it all built out. Now you notice I don't have the knobs in yet, and that's because it's a lot easier to finish without the knobs in. I know that because I've done it both ways. And when the knobs are on there, obviously you come along and you bump into them or you're having to work around them. And I'm just wiping a varnish on these, okay? You can shellac or spray, sealer or whatever. You can even put a toner stain on there, but I'm choosing to go natural because this cherry is really, really nice. Now, this chest tells a little bit of a story too, in the way that it's hung around here for a little while. So if you look on the side, see how dark this side is? That's because this side was cut during the Fine Woodworking article. So it's been several months in the shop, and I didn't have it directly exposed to light, but it got enough light that it did oxidize and look darker. I mean, you can see the contrast to this molding here. Now, anytime you have a horizontal piece, it's going to reflect light differently, and it's going to look a little lighter, but that's going to come way closer. In fact, this molding is made of the same wood as this base frame. So if you look, this frame material was around for a while too, before I finished it. It was already sized, and some of the dovetails were pre-cut. So you can see how it's darker down here, and then it's kind of lighter up here. That's because I had to shave into it a little bit to blend the molding to the top. This piece of molding came right off of the piece of cherry that was right aside of this. So the grain really matches. It may not look like a match right now, but we're going to give it some time, and that's going to really warm up and darken and get dark like that foot, and almost as good as, or as deep as the side. It's all right if there's some variation piece to piece in a piece like this, but over time it's going to warm up and kind of meld together in color. I got to show you the top. I'm just going to tip it forward for this. I got to do this so I don't drop it. I set it down on some shellac, so it was a little sticky there. But can you see that?
Wow.
How curly it is?
Wow.
It's a crazy curly top. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it, but now I really like it. I think it came together beautifully. I'll give you another look at this chest. I'm assuming I'm going to have it done next Shop Night Live, and we'll have it on the floor, and you can see it in all its beauty. But you wouldn't be able to get the look that I'm going to show you now of the inside and some of the details we're going to do to the drawers and things. So this is a good opportunity. Now I've got some shiny spots on there. That's just where the Danish oil has already absorbed to the point that it's now laying on the surface. Other areas look drier because after 2 coats, it's absorbed in, so it's not really laying on the surface in those areas yet. So I'll give it a light sand. I'm gonna hit this with another coat of Danish oil until I see an even kind of sheen on the whole top and sides. Then I'm gonna give it a full, at least 24 hours. With this humid weather, I'm a little nervous. I may go double that before I go with the water locks, because I wanna make sure there's no incompatibility issues. And like Mr. Moore used to say, never rush a finish, Tom. You never rush a finish. And so we're gonna not rush a finish.
While you're talking about finishing, I've got a few questions on finishing. Is this a good time?
Sure.
Okay, Mark's asking, how do you control the interface between the Danish oil and the shellac on the interior? If the finishes bleed over the edges, wouldn't there be a witness line?
Mark, that's a great question, but you know, it's really not a problem. When you're finishing with wiping oil varnish, you got to choose your spots where you're going to stop and or not. So I start with the oil in this case because I want the oil to be on the surfaces it gets on, and I don't want shellac to inhibit the oil. Now, with a chest of drawers, that's really a great question, because if you're going to use an oil varnish with any case piece, you want the oil varnish that needs to cure slowly. You know how it has that odor. You want that on the outside surfaces only. Nothing is on the interior here. You know, as working with inmates over at the prison, the Concord State Prison, believe it or not, we've been going in there with my friend Terry Moore and others in the Furniture Masters group for over 20 years. And when we started out, we forgot to tell them that. And so some of the guys would make little chests of drawers, and you know, they put the oil varnish on there, and they would oil varnish the inside too. And now it worked, but has 2 problems. One, it has the potential to get a little gummy, like, you know, it can get a little stickier in that condition. But the worst thing is that it takes forever to dry. Because it's in that enclosure, it just has the odor of the oil varnish every time you open the drawer. So stick to the surfaces and you will be in good shape. So all of these front surfaces of the dividers, the sides, and the top. Now I just put this on, screwed this on temporarily. It actually was off earlier, and I'm finishing this on both sides while it's off the case. And So I did all the feet. I did under here just with the oil. So we have all that blending. But I didn't go anywhere on the inside of this. All of that interior is shellac. It's all, I used the pre-mixed shellac for this too. I'm using the Zinsser clear shellac. And I cut this in half with Danish oil to like 1.5 pounds cut. And the beauty of this is I spray a lot of it. So it's a lot of material because you got the inside of the case, and then you have all these drawer parts, which also, let me get one of the smaller ones, which also have the issue of the oil varnish. So I'm just putting the oil varnish on the outside, and I just run it on the top and bottom edge. This is the top actually. And that's just to get a nice color on the top when you see it. It's not enough inside to be a problem with odor and everything like that. So the back side of the drawer front is shellac, and all of this in here is shellac. So you have to, I give it 2 coats too of the thin shellac. Now when you're wiping your varnish and you haven't hit the sides yet, I just wipe it, and it's quite easy to just run your finger along, and you see the line of varnish is just barely around the corner because all these edges are broken nicely. So that nice little broken edge that's slightly rounded is going to just be where the transition is. So that's a nice spot to transition. And then when I get the shellac on there, it actually is beneficial if you just dip a paper towel for your first approach on the sides, and I take it and I wipe it on, and I let it really saturate into those pins. So I'm just wiping with a paper towel dipped, just dampened in the 1.5 pound cut, and I wipe it on there, and boy, that's one of the fun parts of this. When you see those pins like pop and light up against or go darker against the lighter tails. And it really shows how clean they are, you know? And it gives a great look. And also you see it in the back, you don't get as much contrast back here, but this is the pine on the pine. But again, you have those hand-cut dovetails right on around. So that's where it is. It's shellac all on there. The drawer bottoms and the dust petitions are all shellacked as well. Well, I want to show you that by coming in the back here. I'll spin this around if you have another quick question.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, while I'm spinning around, go ahead.
I think you're covering Steve's question. He said, can you explain the difference in this different finished product, in the different finished products? I'm sorry.
The different finishing products?
Let me move on to another one.
Okay.
Sorry. Dan asked how you apply the satin water locks. Did you answer that yet?
Oh, Dan, yeah, I wipe that on as well, like the water locks. But when you get it right out of the can, it's kind of heavy. It's heavier bodied, like thicker, more viscous than the Danish oil. So I will cut it like 10 to 20% with paint thinner or mineral spirits. Makes it thinner, just easier to pat on. Just put in a little, I subdivide it into these little canning jars, little 4-ounce canning jars, and then they don't go bad. If you fill them right up and don't let any air go in there, you're good to go. And you take one of those, I've already diluted it, and then I just tab in and wipe it on. So the surface just looks wet, but it's not a heavy coat. It's almost like you're wiping a polish on there. So you're just trying to put this thinnest coat possible, yet have it look wet. Okay, no dry spots initially. Then it's going to start drying faster, and you're going to see it start to look like you have some dry patches. But don't go back. After you've gone over the whole thing and it looked wet, just that's it. Don't go back. It's just starting to dry, so it's going to start looking uneven. But the next morning, it's going to look really great and more even. And usually 2 coats of thin water locks once I go to that stage.
Is the Danish oil you're using natural, Tom? Bob's asking.
Is it what?
Natural?
Yes, it is the natural color. The thing about that is, quite often, you see Danish oil and you can buy it in different colors, like it'll be walnut, cherry, or whatever. You don't want to buy the cherry on cherry because the way they name finishes is just what color white wood would look with that color. So if you had cherry Danish oil and you put it on like a basswood or something white or poplar even, you're going to get the reddish color of cherry, so it's going to make that whiter wood look like cherry. But you've got cherry, if you've got cherry on your case. So you want to enhance the natural beauty of that. So naturally, you choose the natural Danish oil. Here's the one I use. So it lets the full color of the cherry come through. And I just love the oil varnishes and how they oxidize with cherry over time. It gives you the full richness of color. Versus I've used just shellac, and you get a little diminution. Boy, I'm using all the words tonight. A little diminution of the richness potential with the cherry. All right. So I'm going to go on, and we'll have some more questions salted in here. But let's talk about the interior of this chest. What's great about the way it's built is that the back dividers are removable. The back dividers, for those of you who weren't in the course for some inexplicable reason, they're removable, and they're actually lined up exactly with the front dividers in the back here with a kind of a fun jig to build, and that help to align them. If you want to just see that, photos of that, it's in the recent issue of Fine Woodworking, issue number 290, I think it is. And you can check out that jig on there. But it aligned them front to back. But what's great is they're sliding dovetails. So this one goes down here in the bottom. And because they're sliding dovetails, there's a mechanical kind of feature to them where they go in and they hold and they establish the width, so they keep the case structurally, dimensionally true side to side. And they also, because of using the jig, they're perfectly in plane with the front divider. So these mid runners are attached to the sides, and they're allowed to expand and contract. You got to think a lot about expansion and contraction with solid wood pieces like this. But see, these are attached to the grain of the sides, and the sides are expanding and contracting, almost like an accordion, because the grain is running this way, and wood moves across the grain, as we are coming to know. Along the length, it stays virtually stable, so it's not moving this way. So this runner is oriented in the opposite way, so it's not moving at all this way. So you don't want to glue that fully to that side rail, that side of the case, or it will crack. Eventually the case is going to crack because it needs to move seasonally. It's expanding and contracting all the time. So what do? We don't glue this on at all. If we did it all, we would just put a spot in the middle, but I choose not even to do that. So I'm letting this tenon sit inside the front divider and the back divider, and run a couple screws solidly in. When this is held, when I have this back divider in place, it aligns the runner perfectly. And then I'll pre-drill and run those two screws in there, which are holding it really solidly against the side, but there's enough give in them that they allow the side to move seasonally. So it's a really great solution to allow for wood movement seasonally. And I don't butt them right up against the back of the front divider either. There's like a little 16th inch gap there, and there's a little gap in the back. The same goes for this bottom runner. It's not glued in. It's just screwed in. This one's at a diagonal. That's also not just to allow for wood movement, but it's allowing future repair. So these are hard maple. So this is going to allow that drawer to run like butter in there, right on that hard maple, and it's going to wear very slowly. It's super tough. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I had that drawer, let's grab a different one. We've got, let's look at a prettier side. We've got this piece of hard maple laminated to the bottom edge. And white pine is one of our most stable woods. So these sides are quite stable, but they're light too. So the drawer is going to have some heavier contents in there. So you don't want to start out with a heavy drawer. You don't really want to build your interior of your drawers with like maple or oak or something like that that's going to be super heavy and moves a lot more than white pine. So we get the best of both worlds: stability, lightness, and durability with that hard laminated edge of hard maple on the bottom. So someday that might need to be repaired, but it's going to be a long time. And this gives it a good life before it needs to be repaired. And when someone does come to repair these drawer runners, because they, on the old ones that I've seen, the softer woods, like pine or something, they would be dished out from the drawer running in there because it's wood on wood. So you want to use a good hardwood that's going to be long lasting. But when the repair person would come in, they're just going to have to take out the screws and then it'll come right off. It's not glued in there. It's no problem. So it's not a big headache. And I know that from experience from having to fix others. Now, also, the nice thing also about this is you've moved the back dividers and you've got free reign. Let me get my spray gun. You got free reign to finish in here. So I did this whole interior spraying that shellac from the back here so I wouldn't get any on my front varnished edges. You know, you can wait till you're all done varnishing, and the shellac will all be sprayed in a way that it won't hit those edges. So I would just, I'm just hitting with air right now, but I would just spray in here. But look at that access you have all in here while there's nothing in the way, no back dividers or anything. Up here, it gets kind of hard to get on the top, so I just pad and wipe those runners. Anywhere I can't spray, I just take that hand wiping method, and like I showed you on the drawer side.
Ken's asking, when you sprayed, how did you prevent overspray onto the oil varnish? Was that?
Yeah, just what I think I just addressed that.
Okay.
Always spraying opposite the direction, so this is the point. So I'm never spraying in that direction. So in here, there's nothing going toward it or on it. So it's not even an issue. But you can wait till the end, like I said, too. But once that's all sprayed and finished in there, I like to come along with some broken down 220 or even 320 paper, and you can just lightly sand these runners and the sides too. And what you're going to feel is that shellac powders up. See that little white dust? It gets so silky and smooth, it's unbelievable. But that gives you a beautiful surface for the drawer to run into. And the shellac also acts as a sealer for the wood, so you're not going to get quite the swings in movement. So that's going to be a more slick surface for the drawer to run against. And I also have it on the drawer itself, which also gets knocked down with the paper, and then the whole thing gets a little bit of wax. So I'll put a little wax on the drawer before. But let me just show you, I'll just scoot right along because I want to show you a few other things before we get going. These are the dust petitions. They're like raised panels. And this sets the chest a little bit apart. It makes it a little more upscale. So between all these dividers, each each drawer has its own little set cavity there, and this dresses it up to be a little more upscale for a chest of drawers rather than just having the whole thing wide open. So these fit beautifully right inside the grooves all around. And this piece of maple runner here is just screwed to the bottom here, and this one gets slid in beneath that. So you get that beautiful structure there. And then these back dividers can go in. We set those in. And then these are also grooved, so they just find the groove right there. And before I put the next one in, I have to run that little guide screw up in there.
Tom, Peter's saying, you said don't finish the inside, but now you're saying spray the inside.
No, I did say finish. I just said don't finish the inside with oil varnish. You want to finish the inside with shellac. So what I'm spraying is shellac, the 1.5 pound cut shellac. It's all shellac. It dries fast. It's a shell. It's an evaporative finish. So it evaporates quickly, where the oil varnish is a reactive finish, requires oxygen, and it takes a long time to fully cure if it's in an enclosed space like a drawer cavity. So, yeah, thanks. I needed to make that clear. Okay, so that's now.
Tom, why 2 screws in the side runner and not just one in the middle?
I just wanted a little more strength. So I put 2 to give it a little more rigidity, because, you know, you're going to have some weight on there, but just an added amount of strength. I used to actually glue them in the middle a little bit, and a lot of the old ones actually, they just fire nails into them. You know, some of the old chests were just nailed on, you know, and quite often glued as well, but not heavily, because you would cause the chest to split. Okay, there you go. That's pretty nice, huh? You got all those 3 little openings for the back. Now, should we talk about the back? Let's put the drawers, let's move to the drawers before the back so we can see if we need to, what's going on inside the back area. And
While you're putting the drawers in, I've got a couple questions. It was noticed that the cathedral figure on the sides are in opposite direction.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about that?
No, on it, usually I try to put them in the same direction, but this one didn't work out because for some reason I didn't want to expose that side. I just didn't have 2 sides that I could do vertically. But you know what? I used to always want the cathedral facing up. So this looks different to me, but I'm like, why did I always think that was a big deal? Like, because it almost looks like swags. Like if you drip something over the side, you'd have these swags of something. It looks fine. I mean, I don't, and the bottom line is, can you ever see both sides at the same time? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's crazy. Somebody caught that.
Yeah, that was a great catch. But that's funny, because I almost always, when I pair up sides, I'll usually pair them with the cathedral facing up. It's just an old habit. So this is one of the unusual chests where I didn't, because the best face on this one happened to be in that direction when balanced with the other side. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the finishing touches we'll do on the drawers. Let's see. So we should probably talk about the drawer pulls first. Now, I wish I had got them all finished for you, because I wanted to show you the darker pulls on there. But this is the way that I turn them. I turn these on the lathe, and I like this size. They're like a little under 1.25 inches when they're finished, but you get a pair of them, and I don't know if I got my little template, but that's not important. I have a little template for this, and just lay them out and you turn them, and if you if you know how to turn, this isn't a huge challenge. But I did find, or someone sent me, Bert, thank you, Bert, for sending me that link to the shaker knobs. There's a source that we have a link to in the description below this video.
I won't. I will put it in at the end. I didn't put it in yet. I'm sorry. It will be there after.
You didn't put it in yet?
40 lashes.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
It's so unusual.
Seconds after we're finished.
It's so unusual for you not to do it that I just assumed.
You're right. I just totally forgot.
But thank you. That'll be there. And the only difference is with those knobs, you want to drill a 3/8 inch hole and they don't go all the way through. It's still plenty. The way I'm doing these, I'm actually wedging them. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. But these will go, by the way, on those, they do have cherry. So they're pretty nice style. They're very similar in dimension. They're 1 1/8 diameter and they extend like 1 inch. So that's appropriate. That's almost exactly the same as these. All right, so anyway, once I've got them in this shape, I need to cut them apart. So I just usually do that on the bandsaw. Now, you could chuck these back in the lathe, but I don't do that. I just clean them up by hand, and because it's a relatively quick process, I just take a sharp chisel and shear off that nub, trying to keep kind of the radius of the knob. And notice my finger is below the knob, he says, right before he cuts it. So I got a nice sharp chisel here. This is the one that landed on the back of my hand 3 weeks ago, which I'm fully healed from, by the way. Yeah? Almost fully. I have a war story now, right? It's not too glamorous, though. A chisel fell off my door. All right, so then once I get that, I can lightly file it. I would just lightly file that, maybe. Just, getting that curvature going there. They're kind of hard to clean up on the lathe too because the center really isn't spinning. So you end up almost manually doing it anyway. And then the last thing I do, there's going to be a little noise, is I'll just sand it with a palm sander. All right, till it's clear. See, it doesn't take much to get rid of that stem where the stem was coming out, but I still have to do these in here. And this is the little rack that I made. I just took a scrap piece of wood and drilled a series of 1/2 inch holes so I can put the Danish oil on these, and then I do the whole finishing process. I don't get any on the tenon because that's going to be glued in later. And I'll just set it in there and then just get it right on. It's super easy to let them dry that way and then come back to them. I need to finish that other one before I have my 8. But then when I'm done with those, once the drawer's all finished, I will attach the drawer pull to the drawer. So I found that you can just varnish over with the light wiping I'm doing. I didn't even need to protect the mortises in the drawers. Almost nothing goes in there anyway, so it's plenty dry to get the glue. And the way I wedge the tenons in there, it works really well also. So let me just show you on a demo piece. I'm going to just take I I don't have those drawer fronts ready to put a drawer pull in, but I'll show you how I get them in something like this. So this is just a sample knob, and that goes in, and it's got a nice tight clean shoulder on there. And I'm going to orient the grain on this one horizontally. You could do it however you like, but I like it horizontal. And when I'm doing that, I want to have, if I'm going to wedge it like I am, I'm going to put the wedge so that when you drive the wedge, you always want it to spread the tenon into end grain. So that would be in these two directions. Here's the grain. So the end grain is running into the tenon this way and this way. So we're going to cut our slot in the knob right in that orientation. So I'm just going to come down here, right about 2/3 of the way, and I'll go ahead and do that on the lathe. on the bandsaw. I'm going to use a little, you can kind of see me, right? Here we go. Okay.
Sorry, I'm nervous about walking over there because I've got drawers at my feet. I don't want to tip over with wires.
Yeah. One thing that's good practice is to drill a slightly larger hole at the bottom of these type of slots, because it allows the tenon to spring and not split. So I'll just do that right here. So just by doing that, this tenon will spring and it won't split up through the knob. That's only happened to me once where I saw a split come up, but it was in danger of cracking right up through the knob. But when you pre-drill like that, you knock out that potential. So to do this, I'm going to pre-fit a wedge, and that's good because this wedge goes in. And it's just a piece of oak. This is kind of overkill, but these are going to go in and then not going to come out. So what I like to do is get a little glue in the mortise, right? This is totally make-believe here. A make-believe drawer front. Everything else is real. I feel like I'm going to say, don't try this at home. But this is all real. And I'm going to get it smeared out on the inside there. Now, you want to just put a very little on the tenon, because whatever you put on here, most of it doesn't make it into the mortise. It gets sheared off, and it means cleaning up the drawer face right down by the pull. So look how little I'm going to put on here. Just glaze it. Even that amount it'll come down and it'll get squeezed out over that ridge. All right, so that's good. Now as I put it in, I'm going to twist a little bit to smear out the glue and get it in position. We wanted it to be vertical there. With the glue, I'm not quite seated. I better get a clamp on there fast. I was a little tight with this one at the end, so I hope this pulls in. Good thing it's just for fake.
Tom, Linus is asking, do you undercut the shoulders on the knobs when you're turning on the lathe?
Yeah, that last cut I make, that's a great question, is very specifically for that reason, to get a nice clean shoulder. Oh, come on. There's a chance this won't pull all the way in. But this is the method I use to make sure the knob is fully seated. There it goes. Yay. All right, so by using a piece of pine or something, now it's really down. See how nice that is? It's super clean because the last shear cut I do on the lathe is with a skew to slightly undercut that cleanly. All right.
So John's asking why glue it if you use a mechanical joint?
Oh, I just like to glue it, John. I want to make sure the wedge stays in there and everything good. I mean, it's permanent, right? Probably don't need to, but wouldn't I opt to glue it. I mean, I would just glue it, but now I'm gonna tap it in there. Usually I have a longer piece and it's not so tight here, but then you tap the wedge. You're gonna tap it till you hear it sharp. It hits kind of sharply. Hear that difference? That's done. All right, so that is beautiful in there. Now we can take off the clamps because it's not going anywhere. But that helps to make sure it's seated, because I have done it where, not on this, but early on, I made a mistake of just resting, because when you're driving the wedge, you're also driving the tenon, and if that pushes, it could push slightly out before it starts to really wedge the piece, and then you'll have a gap down there. You want to make sure you don't. Thus the clamp mechanism. I was going to use those clamps anyway. It wasn't just to make sure it was fully, that one was down. So then I could clean that glue off, and I have a beautiful little drawer to nowhere. But I do have a drawer over here to somewhere. I mean, this was a sample drawer, and that has the wedge still in there. And you can treat that a number of ways once it dries, like this one's been dry for quite some time. I just like to trim them off with a Japanese saw. Okay, now you can leave them proud. When I've got a whole set of drawers like this, if I want to get them flush, I'll just set up the router with a router bit. A lot of times it'll be like a dovetail bit, so it has an angle, so it's really cutting, like coming in at a skewed angle. And I set the router down over it so that there's that little space in the router plate, and then just come in and trim it off. So the router bit itself is not set below the plate of the router. It's just slightly higher, like a piece of paper higher. In fact, that's the way I set it a lot of times. I'll just put a piece of paper, drop it down while the router's sitting on a flat surface, and just skim it, and then you can just card scrape it smooth. I'm not going to go into that now. Or you can just leave it proud like that and accentuate the fact that you've got kind of this old world tenon going on here.
Now you said, if I remember right, and maybe you said it in the course and that's why I'm remembering, that the knobs go on after the finish is on the chest, correct?
Right, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
That's why I'm not putting any on a real drawer. This is a...
Finish the knobs separately from the whole chest.
Yeah, I'm pre-finishing. That's why I have the drying stand for the knobs and everything. These get pre-finished. They get wedged in later because it's so much easier to wipe your varnish and do everything on your drawer fronts without the knobs in the way. Otherwise, you're working around them. Mm-hmm. The first chest I did in this series, I did that way, and I thought to myself, why did I glue those in already? And would there be a problem? I thought, is it going to be inferior? Like, will you have a noticeable line there if you pre-finish everything and then attach your knobs? Is it going to be a lesser kind of seam the way it meets the door front? It's really not. It doesn't make any difference. So I choose to now pre-finish, glue them in. You'll get a nicer, faster job. You won't have any kind of working around there. Now to put the drawer bottom in, this is a traditional method that where we put in actual solid drawer bottoms. This is another sample bottom that I'm going to use here. And these go in. This is traditional to go in and slide in that groove all the way around, and it fits right into the front. Now this is another kind of area where you have to think about grain direction, because you've got the drawer sides which are running this way, so there's virtually no movement in this direction, only in this direction. But your drawer bottom slides in, and its direction is the other way. So it wants to move and expand and contract seasonally. So that's why the groove is here, to allow the bottom to expand and contract out the back. So we have this little slot back here to allow for expansion and contraction. And there's a screw is going to go in there and hold that. But we need to make sure that the drawer bottom is held to the front so that it doesn't contract and come out the front, but we actually get that movement on that slotted screw back here. So one of the ways you can do that is you can pre-nail, you could just drive a couple brads in there at a sloping angle. It's not awful, but it can split there, and also it makes it very hard to remove the drawer bottom if you need to in the future for repairs. Like say you wanted to repair, these sides got worn. It's not going to be our lifetimes, right? But for that person who repairs it, if these ever got worn, you want to remove the drawer bottom to replace that. But another way is you could just put hide glue or something that is dissolvable with hot water. A little bit of hide glue in the groove will also do the trick. But that's a little harder to notice and also harder to remove. So I'm going to put on this, I think one of the best ways to go is to just make a little glue block. This is very traditional for attaching glue drawer bottoms in many cases. But I just ran some stock that had the same approximately 8-degree angle as my raised panel along here. Like this drawer bottom is like 5/16 thick, and it has, basically it's a raised panel going in with the panel side down. And I want to hold that to the front. So I've got that little angle there, and I chamfered that. It's about 4 or 5 inches long. So it fits right nicely in there, in that groove. Now, the best way to do this would be with hide glue, because hide glue is the traditional way, and you can dissolve hide glue with just a little hot water. And so if you put some hot water on there, you could pop this glue block off and remove the drawer in no time if it needed to be repaired. But it holds beautifully. It's the traditional way. Many of the old pieces had hide glue like that. So I actually mixed up a little bit. I haven't done this. I know I haven't done this on Shop Night Live. Whew, it stinks a little bit. This is rabbit based, I believe. I got this one from Wood Finishing Enterprises, by the way. And it was £1. There's hardly any left. But I just use this occasionally. Have a little glue pot here. I used to like the stories of Pug when he would say, when they first started out, it was the early 1900s. Let's see. Yeah, he started working in the shop in like 35. So he said the first thing they would do every day is they would plug in the glue pot. Get the glue hot, because the glue had to be ready when you needed it. They didn't have our adhesives like we use. So probably that was the last generation that needed to do it. But it's a very effective glue, and I'm going to just, this is a little thin, but you could brush this, but I'm just going to use a stick. So it's heated up, and as it cools, it starts to gel very fast. So it's not bad to use in the summertime like now, but in the winter it can be problematic, because as soon as it kind of cools a little to a point, you're done. It's really hard to work with. So there it's kind of gelatinous. And I'm just going to set it right in the front here. And here's the beauty of hide glue. You just give it some pressure, and this is where your rub fit. It's super slick. I got to make sure it's all the way forward, right? And you just hold it there for a few seconds. Talk amongst yourselves. And after you've gotten that, it starts to feel rubbery, and then you let go. There's no need to clamp. That thing is on there. Look at, it's beautiful, and that's gonna hold this drawer bottom to the front of the drawer. Now you don't need to use a hot glue pot. If you want to do this, you can get liquid hot glue in a bottle. They have an additive to it that keeps it liquefied. This is the old time purest way. And old brown glue is also the same. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong on that, but I'm almost certain. Anybody have some experience with old brown glue? I haven't used old brown glue, but go ahead and chime in. So once that's all set, I'm going to set a screw down into the top. Down into the back.
On that drawer bottom, did you laminate that drawer bottom?
No, this is solid wood.
Okay.
Yep. It's just solid right on across. So then this screw would just be set. And there you have it, a traditional drawer ready for expansion and contraction out the back. Good solid bottom, made in a beautiful way. And that knob is super strong. All right, so lastly, I just want to show you the back of the case and putting the back on. And one thing I showed the people in the course, I'll just give you a quick look at this. One of the great features I love about traditional furniture is where you can feel the maker was present. So you don't see machined surfaces, you see planed surfaces, hand planed traditionally, prior to thickness planers. So a lot of times for speed, on the less seen areas, they would use what's called a scrub plane. I don't have a dedicated scrub plane. A lot of them are narrow bodied, so the soles of them are about like 1.5 inches or 1.25 inches wide. And the blades themselves have an extreme camber or curvature to them. So I just ground an old plain blade with a strong camber on it to imitate a good old scrub plane. I'm just going to demo this on this little sample piece. This is the way I did the back with the shiplapped form. And the outside surfaces of all the boards and all the drawer bottoms have this scrub plane on them. So you're left with this texture, this scalloped feeling of the maker. It's really awesome to add little details like this that give a nod to the maker. Now, the one thing about it too, though, it's actually faster than sanding, because what I do is I scrub plane and I just lightly run sandpaper over it, and that's it. I don't have to sand. It's right out of the planer. Like, I can see all the thickness planer lines right here, but all I do is bring this in, get it held in the dogs, and then I'll just make a pencil mark on here so you can see what's happening. Okay. And then I'm just going to scrub plane from left to right here. Even if I get a little tear out, I don't care. See these shavings? They're really thick in the middle. Just go to all the pencil marks gone, and there it is. It's shiny, but it has texture. I don't know, if I had, let me get the raking light. Can you see this scalloping right there? You can kind of see it. But I love that because you're leaving the tracks of the hand plane. It's very obvious, but it's pretty, and that's it. I didn't have to sand that at all. I come in with like the very lightest 220, and I just go like that, and it's done. So it not only gives that touch point to the maker, but it's fast and easy. So that's the way all my backs are, and all of the undersides of the drawer bottoms have that same scalloping, and the flat surface is just hand planed. So that's pretty fast too. If you've ever planed white pine, you know what fun that can
Tom,
be.
Mike's asking, does the solid wood bottom make for better construction over ply?
No, the plywood is fine. I just choose on a piece like this that's so connected to the traditional to go with a solid wood bottom. You know, it's kind of funny to think that the Shakers, I bet they would have been fans of plywood, and they probably would have used plywood there. But I've seen the original Shaker, some of the cabinets and pieces over there, and all of the drawer bottoms are solid white pine. But you know what's even better than that? Everyone I looked at, even the 22-inch wide deep drawers, are a single plank of solid white pine. You know, close growth rings. So these trees were cut down, you know, in the early 1800s, right in the backyard. And this is over at Canterbury Shaker Village, just a little over a mile away. And beautiful, beautiful pine drawer bottoms. So that made it super easy. There was no gluing up. They had their own sawmill on the property and got all their own boards.
Sorry, I'm scooting around because I need the drawers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry
I don't want
about
them
that.
to fall on me.
But let's. I'm going to put these, even though these poles are not
Tom,
finished.
do you remember if in the tuning hand planes, sharpening and tuning hand planes video, you talked about chamfering? Cambering, sorry.
Yes, if you look at the video on hand planing flat surfaces,
Okay.
that I definitely talk about it there because it's super helpful. You're going to that is a very subtle camber, which I have on a number of my planes, regular bench planes, but for a scrub plane, you're just going to go extreme. It's just an extreme camber, which I don't show on that as much. So, yeah, while we're here, I'll just put the back on. So here's the back. These are the back boards. And then we'll slide the drawers in and we'll be done. But I just want to show you this. Now, one of the things we noticed, and I always notice, is when you have dust petitions and your drawers are fit so beautifully like these are, when you push them in, you can feel resistance of the air. Like you can feel a pillow of air. And it's not a lot, but it's enough where you get a little bit of resistance. So there's some ways you can get around that, like your drawers, like, see, this drawer is going to be in this cavity. One way is you can cut the back lower than your sides, okay? So when you're pushing in, the air is allowed to come over the back as it's sliding in. I kind of like my sides all in plane like that. So I was trying to think of another way rather than having the back step down just for that air issue. Like these drawers are so nicely fit that when you push it in fast, the other top drawer will actually puff outward. You know, it would go out if you pushed it in really fast. But with things in it, I don't think you're going to get that. But you're just going to feel that little pillow resistance of air. So I was thinking of other ways that I could kind of let the air breathe and exit the case. And, you know, there's all kinds of ways, like you could drill holes in the back or, you know, have holes going down through the petitions or maybe something out the bottom. But all that is a little primitive. So I decided, I actually did something I'm just testing for the first time. And it is making these little scallop cuts between, you see those right there? These will all be, this is the first plank that goes in, and those are going to be located approximately in the middle of each of the cavities in there. Now, what happens is,
Can you hold Hold it still so I can.
Yeah, I'm just going to let it there. All I did was I made marks, and I had a story stick that carried the marks all the way over. Because see, with this shiplap construction, this laps, and it's pretty flat against the previous one. You don't want a gap in there because it's going to allow the boards to curl away. It kind of helps hold them in plane for them to be touching and be pretty close to even. See that right on the end there? That's a good shiplap joint. So with the shiplap, we're actually going to attach these and leave about a 1/16 of an inch gap between them when we attach it. But I thought, you know, that's actually a place where I could have let some air release if I cut a little scallop in here and I made a line. I just made these reference lines so that these would all kind of equal. So these little cuts here are going to match up with the scallops on the other. So when these are a 1/16 inch apart, those are going to be like little breather holes at every seam. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but we'll give it a shot. So the way I did that was I laid them out, and I just took one of my carving chisels, a 520, and just came in here and made a little scallop cut. It was pretty fast to just let the chisel kind of sweep, and that's it. And just went right on down, okay? So just chunking out these little, what's great about it is they're invisible, but they're going to allow some air movement. So let's pop those in. And I've got the screws all set. Everything's pre-drilled, ready to go. And we'll get those backboards on.
Mark had asked earlier what the distance is between the side of the drawers and the side of the cabinet. Is it 1/32 inch?
It's as close as you can be without, you want as little slop as you can get with it sliding cleanly. So it may end up being a 32nd overall, you know, when it's all said and done. But in the course, we talked about the way we laid out the dovetail pins to be slightly proud when we glued up our drawers. Then we shaved the pins off, and the drawers fit really sweet. Let's see, where did I put that drill? There it is. So I'm going to set this up here. This is my...
So Dennis is asking, you hand planed the raised panel edge of the door bottoms?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You hand planed the raised edge panel edge of the door bottoms?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes. Yeah, I was showing
you can see that
a second ago.
On the course.
That might have been earlier. So I'm just going to run a few of these in here. I won't put them all in, but enough so that we can test the authenticity of those breather holes.
Ron's asking, are the glue blocks in the bottom of the drawers in the same place as the door stops?
No, that's a great point. Yeah. No, you got to make sure you don't.
I remember you covered that in the course.
I make them opposite, just opposite the screws in the back. Like the wider drawers have 2 screws in the back. And, sorry, I got this one. And the drawer stops are just out by the edges. They're just about 2-3 inches in from the edges, so there's no conflict. But that's something you definitely got to remember when if you're putting in those glue blocks. So now I just use these little 1/16 inch spacers. And they help to get a nice even gap. You can just shoot right on across. And these have all been scalloped on the back. I also ran a quick coat of shellac on both sides. Actually, like 2 coats.
Tony's asking, are the 2 screws in the back panels a risk for splitting with seasonal change?
No, these, because of the stability of white pine and that they're only, 4 or 5 inches apart, and there's no glue involved, no, you won't have any problem here. But yeah, that's definitely something to think about. Just know, that's why we're having that little gap there. It's not going to move a 1/16 of an inch hardly, but the nice thing about screws is there's some give to them. You know, it's the glue that, it's when you glue something cross grain where you get the future cracking. So these are numbered, and I already had these all pre-drilled, ready to go, but it makes for a nice clean back. And I have, whoops, got that one backwards. I have made like these raised panel backs, like frame and panel. That's a step up, but I was all set to do that with this chest, but the article was, when we were talking about it, it was going to be way too long. As it was, the article in the magazine didn't even include the drawer making. Or fitting, very little. But that'll be in a follow-up article. I was thinking of taping like little pieces of tissue paper over the gaps to see when you push the drawer in if you see a puff of air go up the back, you know? This is a new method, so I'm not sure. I mean, of course, you can always cut your drawer backs lower, but I don't know. Some people do that.
You're putting them all in, hon?
Yeah, I'm just about done. What did you think?
Oh, I thought you had said you weren't going to put them all in. So
I'm not going to put all the screws in.
Oh, put all the screws.
But it's going to be a problem because I'm running out of screws. All right. I'll just make sure I get the ones in I need. All right, the last one should fit. We'll pin it.
Looks so nice.
Yeah, I love the look of it. It's nice to finish. Let me steal one over here. This one. What? I'll steal one more. Okay, so that's good. So that seals the back. Let's turn it around. Get the drawers in there. Take a look at this baby.
Ed's curious, with drawers so tight, doesn't that pose challenges down the road with humidity and wood movement?
Who said that? Who asked that?
Ed?
Ed? Well, yeah, it could, Ed, if you don't plan for it. But we plan for that when we build the chest. So there's, I'll show you here in a second, there's allowances seasonally. So when we built the drawers, we knew that here we are in the humid months here in New England. So we know that everything's expanded to kind of its max. So we could fit the drawers with a tighter tolerance. In the winter, I leave more of a gap. But the nice thing is we know we have very stable material in the white pine. Oh man, that side's great. But these sides will get lightly sanded, and then I'll wipe over them with some of that paste wax. I use this tray wax, but you could use butcher's wax or anything, everything gets kind of wiped down, and they slide so nice. This is without even being waxed. They slide like butter. And then here's the other top drawer. Oh, you know what?
Thomas is curious, would it be more traditional to use a straight slotted screw over the Phillips screw?
Sorry, straight. Yeah, it would be. I used to be really a purist about that, but I don't. I've got these little Phillips screws in the back. I don't mind. All right, so these are going to look darker, obviously, and they're turned to be slightly loose, so just to fit in there nicely. I'm going to slide the drawer bottom in just to get the actual feeling of these top drawers. So this will go right in here.
And you are, Peter's asking, will there be dust panels in the drawer dividers?
Dust panels in the drawer dividers. Yeah, we have them. Yeah, we talked about that
They're
before.
there. Yep.
They're here. Yep.
Note there was new terms I wasn't knowing.
Yep. Yeah, earlier in the video we showed those going in. So,
Dean says put a few paper towels, tape a few paper towels in the bag to see.
yeah,
It works.
I know. Let's get. That's what I was thinking.
Or a tissue.
I'm gonna be able to tell.
Do the
I can feel. I still feel the air rushing out the bottom. It's probably not making a big difference. But
Tom, do the screw threads grab the pine? Boris is asking.
sorry, what?
Do the screw threads grab the pine? Sorry, I said that wrong.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, they grab nicely. The ones that into the drawer bottoms, yes, they're fine. I'm gonna find a knob that might be a little tighter. No.
Yeah, Lupe says use a dime during the summer and a nickel in the winter.
Yeah, you can use, like, see the gap I have there? I mean, that's plenty. You know, on the sides, someone who was asking earlier, side to side, how much movement? Barely any. Do you hear that? See that? That's the key to a beautiful sliding drawer. So it doesn't have any opportunity to jam. If it's too loose, it racks a little bit and wants to jam going in. But if it's fit like a piston with a little gap there, it slides beautifully. I mean, those are so nice. All right, so I can feel the air puffing a little less, but I'm not gonna really know till the end. And I'll show you guys next week. We'll do the tissue paper test when it's fully assembled with the knobs on there. And
I think Boris was asking in reference to the back
oh yeah, those are
panels. The screw threads grab the pine in the back panel.
oh yeah, yeah, they're grabbing plenty good. They're wood screws, and I pre-drilled, and then there's some that go into the cherry side in the back there. Let's just throw in a few of these knobs.
Oh, the knobs make such a difference.
They're not dark, but
Just
they're going to
already.
be darker because you're going to be looking right into the end grain. And they'll be a lot of these aren't finished.
Wow, it's beautiful.
And well, let's just show you one of them. So the Watco Danish oil, I'll put a little bit on this knob here so you can see what happens. This one's a little bit more aged. I'm just going to put a little on the rag. And let's just let that saturate. Look at how beautiful. It goes into that end grain and really makes it pop. This one's been in the air too. So I'm not going to get it on the tenon. Just try not to get it on your fingers. You always want to wear your gloves like this too. I'm just doing one knob. Don't pick on me. All right, there we go. Beautiful. All right, so let's slide this in and look at it. Let's put it up here. See how different that is? That's going to set off really nicely. I'm going to sand that one a little more, even though.
How many chests of drawers have you built? Peter's asking.
I was thinking about that. I think between 20 and 30. Maybe, that's counting high boys, that are chests on chests too. So not that many. I mean, just with this project, this is the third and fourth. So I've got another one going too. So, and these are going to be for sale at some point. So I will have them on our website, and we have a little section when things do come up for sale. It's not very often, but this one, and I have another one that will be from the same project. So most of you, I believe, would prefer to make them, but which I am all for. But who knows? Somebody might like to have one from the shop.
Yeah, and just a reminder, the course, which we've talked about a gazillion times, is available to take you through all the details, and there's plans too. So
that's right. We've got full-size drawings as well. All right. Well, kind of a foreshadowing to what it's going to look like. I mean, it's kind of funny because this side has aged, and you can see how much darker that already is. This side is darker, where these drawer fronts are just at the very beginning of their aging and enriching. But we'll be able to see better. It will get a little more richer color just from having more finish applied. They're kind of dry looking right now. And then, of course, the knobs will be popping by next week. But
yeah, we have a lot of finishing questions here. I don't know if folks are hanging around to get those. Should I just plow through them?
How about we just do two?
Okay, while I'm finding those, John's asking, are you going to sign the piece? How, when, and where?
Yes, John, absolutely. They all get signed. That's another one of the final details. A piece like this, you're always trying to think of the best place. I didn't want to sign it into the pine, and so that ruled out the drawer bottoms or the back, things that could be removed. So what I did was, on the previous ones, I removed the bottom drawer, and you could lay it on its side if you wanted. And I signed right across here, right in this area. And I use an engraver and just sign in script right in there. Made in Canterbury, New Hampshire.
So there's many questions, but would you want to wait for cooler weather, Steve, maybe until fall to do the final finish with the waterlock shellac?
Oh, no, Steve, you can definitely do it. It just takes a little longer window of time to dry. Now, I do have AC here in the shop, and that helps, drop some of the humidity. It's not really that humid in here. It's just we had two particularly humid days. Where in New England here, you're always getting cooler and drier spells, and then you'll have a few humid days. It's rarely that it stretches out long. When we lived in North Carolina, there were some times that it was so frustrating where I was trying to use an oil varnish, and it just seemed to take forever to dry because I didn't have the climate control as much as I do here. But yeah, you just want to give it enough time. Usually I can tell by starting to try to lightly sand, and if it's gumming up the paper really fast, it's not ready. You want to see a little bit of powdering happening before going to the next coat. And the Waterlox does dry faster and easier than even the Danish oil. It takes a little bit longer than the Waterlox, so yeah, it's fine.
Okay, I have a couple questions about cutting the shellac. You said you cut the shellac 50-50 with oil rather than denatured alcohol?
No, shellac is always cut with denatured alcohol, and it's...
And can you talk about what cut you do?
Yeah, when you buy it in a can like this, the clear and the amber come in a 3-pound cut. It doesn't say it on the can anymore, but I did talk to the people at Zinsser, and they assured me it's still a 3-pound cut. If you ever buy the seal coat, which is a blonde shellac that's wax-free, that's a 2-pound cut. So you're actually getting less shellac for your money when you buy the seal coat, but it has certain properties that are worth it. This is not wax-free, and that's fine because I'm not using it in any place that I care. And it actually works better. It powders up a little nicer. But this is the denatured alcohol. So there's a couple, this is what I get around here. You can be really a purist, and this is not the most pure. I believe it's methanol. What's the additive in here? There's a harmful additive. I'm trying to remember the right word for it. If it's methanol, but the green is your best with this material. To have the green canned, that's the healthiest, best kind. This is 95% natural and renewable.
We can put a link to
95% alcohol. You can buy pure green alcohol, which is 190 proof, but that's more expensive, but it's going to give you a pure.
So you end up with a 2-cut or 1/2 cut?
No, for all of this, for the spraying the interior, wiping on, I like working with a 1.5 pound cut. So you're going to almost cut it, like I said, 50-50. Technically, you get a 1.5 pounds. You don't put quite as much alcohol in.
I think it would be helpful if you could just go through the sequence that you go through to finish. Again, if you could kind of summarize that, because there's questions about each of the. Is that possible?
Okay. Well, the outside is all just going to get the varnish. So it's going to get, I start out with the Danish oil. I talked a lot more about this at the beginning if you want to go back and review. Wiped on 2 or 3 coats of Danish oil. I'm going to wipe on, let each coat dry until I see an even coating. Right now it looks real dry in some spots where it's shiny in others. So I'm going to lightly sand it between coats, like 320, and then wipe on another coat until I get that even matte. Then I have enough build, so I'm not using, and I want more protection, especially on the top. You could actually stop on the whole rest of the case if you liked it, but I like using water locks because it's a more protective finish, and actually the satin gives you a really nice sheen as well. So you cut that a little bit, and that'll be your final 2 coats. Wipe on 2 thin coats of that, cutting that 10 to 20% with mineral spirits. The inside, all the secondary parts, everything, drawer bottoms, everything back, that I hit with 2 thin coats of 1.5 pound shellac. And that I sprayed with the spray gun, most of it, except for wiping on the edges and getting on those beautiful dovetails.
Okay, awesome. I think, just to encourage people, if you're really questioning the finishing and all that, we have a really great finishing methods course. Tom goes into all about the flakes and different kinds of finishing options beyond just shellac, lacquers.
Yeah, we'll have to have another
several hours.
We'll have to have another night where we talk just about shellac. We did that in conjunction with Fine Woodworking magazine, but that was not everybody got to see that, and we didn't have that on our site at this point. But we'll do another one on that where we can show different methods of applying. It's so easy to use. It's so beautiful to finish. A lot of you have heard me talk about it a lot with different projects, but super nice. Got to try it.
Yes. Okay. I think that's good. Thank
All
you.
right. So here I was thinking we weren't going to have a lot of content tonight, but wow.
I'll try to go through the questions here and include links. Somebody asked about what sprayer you use and lots of things. So we'll try to cover them that way.
Yeah, you don't need a super expensive gun to spray shellac. The expensive guns are for heavier bodied finishes, lacquers, conversion varnishes, like what you do in automotive type things. You need to lay it down really beautifully. Shellac's very forgiving. The thinner the material, the more forgiving it is. So you don't need to buy yourself an expensive spray gun. Mine is a little more because It's the Pro Light DeVilbiss gun, but I have to spray occasionally paint and things like that, so I have a nice gun like that. But I have a cheap gun. You can buy one for $50. There's lots of options. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for being part of our evening here and spending some time with us here in the shop. If you enjoy this content, go ahead and subscribe and share, and tell your friends.
Thumbs up.
How much?
Give us a like. That'd be great.
Yeah, and comment. So for the camera lady and myself, we appreciate the time you spent here with us. We look forward to seeing you next time, right back here on Shop Night Live. See you later.
They come just for that moment.
Sorry, that was a little too crazy.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.